I thought I'd show you how to make gluten-free chocolate chip shortbread. Now there's a big reason as to why I'm making chocolate chip shortbread, and that is because Starbucks do a really, really amazing one, but it's not gluten-free. So I haven't had it in over a decade and I miss it. So a few years ago, I created this recipe on the blog and it's been very popular ever since, but I thought I would just show you guys today how to actually make it like using my own hands. So that's what I'm gonna do. The recipe is standard, obviously it's gluten-free. It's also dairy-free and vegan. It's low FODMAP, it's just suitable for everyone really. And what's good about this as well is, let's say you don't want to make a chocolate chip shortbread or you want to make a different shaped shortbread or something, this is a really versatile recipe, so you can use it for all your shortbread needs. You could flavour it in a different way, you can do whatever you want with it, you can have fun. So yeah, that is what I'm gonna do today. I will link the recipe in the description below so that you can read it all through, you can follow along if you want, do whatever you fancy, but without further ado, let's look at the ingredients. So ingredients wise, this is very, very simple. You can use butter or a vegan butter or a dairy-free butter, whatever you want. This is softened. Then we've got some gluten-free flour here. If you're using plain flour, then you just need to add a teensy bit of xanthan gum to it, just to help it stay together. But you can also use self-raising flour, so either, just as long as they're gluten-free. Then I've got some golden caster sugar here, but you can use regular caster sugar like the white one, or you could use granulated sugar. I just like the colour that golden caster sugar brings. That's literally it. It just gives it a slightly darker colour because shortbread can be quite pale. And then finally, chocolate chips. So if you were making this dairy-free or vegan, just ensure that these chocolate chips are dairy-free and vegan, otherwise you're good to go. So that's all the ingredients you'll need. There is another additional ingredient that you can use, which is vanilla. You can add a tiny bit of vanilla if you just want a little extra flavour. I sometimes recommend this if you are not using real butter and you're using like a dairy-free or vegan alternative, because it doesn't have so much of a buttery flavour. So like literally half a teaspoon or so of vanilla extract can be a nice addition. But yeah, there's all the ingredients, let's get going. Okay, so firstly we're going to get our bowl and add our sugar and our butter or vegan butter or whatever you've got, and we're going to cream them together using an electric hand whisk. If you want to add a tiny bit of vanilla, now's the time to do it, and then just mix it in again. Then I've got my flour, so this is some gluten-free plain flour with a little bit of xanthan gum. If you've got gluten-free self-raising flour, that usually has xanthan gum already in it, so you don't need to add it. Either one will work, as I said earlier. So I'm going to tip this in and I'm going to mix it again with my electric hand mix. You can obviously do this by hand and it will be absolutely fine. It doesn't take that much work because it's not super tough, but you don't want to mix it completely in so it's super, super smooth. You want it to be a bit sort of almost like crumbly because we're going to get our hands in there. So basically what you want to do is you want to make it so that you can't actually see the white of the flour, but it doesn't all look together. I'll show you, don't worry. Next we're going to add our chocolate chips. I'm going to mix those in with a spatula so they're evenly dispersed, and then we'll bring the whole mixture together with our hands. Okay, so the chocolate chips are all mixed in now, so I'm going to bring it all together with my hands, and then we'll get it into sort of 2 or 3 big chunks, wrap those chunks in cling film all together, and we'll chill it in the fridge for about an hour, no less really. You want it to be nice and firm, it's easier then to roll, and it helps for it not to spread, because the last thing you want with shortbread is it really like spreading, like going like this. You want it to be all nice and together. So that is why the chilling stage is so, so important. So now I'm just going to wrap this up, put it in the fridge, and say see you later for about an hour. And obviously, you can leave it in for much longer than an hour if you need to. You can leave it in for days, a couple of days if you don't want to use it yet and you just want to be ahead of the game. Then you've got it ready. So yeah, put this in the fridge for at least an hour. Okay, so my dough has been chilling for just over an hour, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it out and get the shapes that I want. So I always do this in stages, not all at once. There's no point in rolling out this huge amount. It just is more difficult. So I'll probably cut this into 3, maybe 4, maybe 2, who cares? And then I'll roll it out. I'll make sure that my surface is lightly floured. You can also do this on non-stick baking paper with a little bit of flour on it. That kind of helps sometimes, but as long as it's floured and it's not a hot surface, nice and cool, then it'll be fine. So I will get that ready now. And also in terms of the shape of what you want it, I made this template years ago and I still have it. That's why it looks a bit tired. And then I just cut around this with a sharp knife, but you can make squares, you can make triangles, you can make hearts, you can do whatever you want. I just weirdly always use this funny cloud shape that I made ages ago and I've just kept. But yeah, literally you can use like a metal sort of cutter, whatever you want, it will work. So here's my first bit of my dough, and I just like to mold it into more of a circle shape because then it's easier from that point to roll it out. Let's put it onto the surface, slap it down a bit, and we're gonna roll it out to about, I think about 1.5 centimeters if possible. No more than that because I think it's just too chunky, but between 1 centimeter and 1.5 is absolutely perfect, I find. It's just the right thickness for a really good chocolate chip shortbread. Alright, so there's my first 2 shapes done. I'm going to lift these up and put them on my prepared baking tray, which has some non-stick baking paper on it. And then I'm going to re-roll this dough out and get some more dough from my big load of dough and keep rolling until I've used it all up, and then I can pop them in the oven to bake. And if, let's say, you didn't want to use all your dough, you were like, well, I don't need loads and loads and loads of these, you could keep some of your dough in the fridge and use it another day. You don't need to use it all at once if you don't want to. But I think I might today, because why not? So there you go, there's my first 5 that I placed on a tray, slightly distanced apart, but not too far apart. And I'm gonna pop these in the oven. The oven's on at 160 degrees C fan, /180 degrees C /350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to put them in for sort of probably around 12 minutes. So I would say 10 to 15, but that can be a bit vague. But until you slightly get a little bit of browning on the edges, you don't want them to start properly browning because that's not shortbread. But yeah, I'll show you what they look like when they come out. So there we go, that is my first batch of my chocolate chip shortbread out of the oven. You can see it's slightly going golden around the edges. That's as much as you want. You want it to look this kind of color. And one of my biggest tips is to not touch it until it's cooled. It will break. It's, you know, shortbread is that sort of thing. It needs to be completely cooled. It's still cooking at this point, and then you'll be able to move it, you'll be able to eat it, you'll be able to enjoy it. It's so worth the wait. So these are all done. I'm gonna let them cool. Whilst those are cooling, I'm gonna put my other trays in because I've actually done 2 more trays whilst I was waiting. Here they are. Yeah. So these are going in the oven now. They were in the oven for about 14 minutes, so these will go in for about that too. I think these chocolate chip shortbread are the perfect snack. You'll absolutely love them, as will you love my gluten-free vanilla cupcakes, which the video is up here, and my gluten-free blondies, which you can find up here. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.